Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Gavinsky's Tutorials. Today is my part 2 video on the Swam Brass Apps, which just came out for iOS, but everything I say is relevant to the desktop versions too, by Audio Modeling. So just a few days ago I did a video on the Swam trumpets, so 5 different trumpets, flugelhorn and piccolo. Two flugelhorns, 2 trumpets, and a piccolo. If you haven't watched that video, go and check that out. I'll put a link above. And today I'm looking at the Tuba and Horns bundle. So the 5 apps in that. Now, all these can be purchased individually, right? Or you can buy them in the bundle, in which case it's a bit cheaper. Now, I went into a lot of things in my last video that I won't go into in this video, but just to very quickly repeat, at the moment, these are on an intro price. So they're going to be on intro price until the 22nd of February. So you may want to look at the App Store and look at the details of all those things to make sure you get them at the best price you can before the prices go up. Same with the bundles. The bundles will also go up in price. So yeah, check that out. Now, here then we have the tuba, bass tuba, to start with. We got then a regular tuba. Maybe just pitch that up a little bit. We got then the euphonium. French horn. That was a B flat one, and now the F one. So later in the video, I will compare these apps in great detail in the various ranges, low range, mid range, high range, so you can really hear clearly the differences between them. You might think sometimes that some of them sound the same, but usually there are certain areas of the range where one shines more than others. And I mean, there are some things like, for example, French horn sounds absolutely nothing like a tuba. But in certain ranges, for example, the tuba and the bass tuba, you might not hear much difference. But then in another range, you'll really hear, okay, wow, yeah, there's a huge difference there. So in the video today, first I'm going to start with letting you hear a few examples of these. And I really want to let you hear some processed examples. This is very important for a couple of reasons. First thing, on my channel, I mainly focus on ambient and electronic type sounds. Not really electronic, ambient and experimental type sounds. So I like to show the kind of things that I would personally use these for. I think there's a misunderstanding maybe that some people have that they wouldn't be interested in these apps because they associate them with jazz or classical, and they think, well, I'm not making that kind of music on my iPad or on my laptop or whatever, then why would I need these? But really, that is really not true. I think you can use these in a bunch of different genres. So I want to let you hear some processed examples to let you hear how cool these can sound if you want to push them a little bit and use them for more experimental things. So we'll start with that. Then later I'll compare the sounds like I just mentioned in different ranges, so you can really get an idea of the differences between these and see which ones you prefer, what do you think is going to fit into your sound more, and whether you can decide, well, do I really need, both the French horns, or do I just need one? Which one would I prefer, the B flat or the F, etc., etc. And then in the final part of the video, I'm also going to do something which I think will be very useful and important for a lot of people, which is looking at how to use Geoshred, although the things I will talk about here would go for other virtual MP keyboards as well. But I'm going to look in detail at how to set up Geoshred so that you can play the Swam sounds from Geoshred. Super useful, because the Swam apps themselves, the keyboard in these is not as good, definitely, to play these as the Geoshred keyboard. So Geoshred can be a great MIDI controller for these apps. All right, so first let's just listen to some examples of how these can sound. And though before I forget, let me just mention something about giveaway details. So I have 4 copies of any app in the Swam Brass collection to give away with today's video. So these apps are, they're $20 at the current intro price if you buy them individually. After the intro period, they will go up to $30. So this is quite a valuable giveaway. So you can win any copy, one copy of any of the 15 apps in the Swam Brass range for iOS. And then the winners will be announced after 2 days of release of this video. If you come in and watch this video later, you're maybe too late. Well, you should make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on future giveaways, because I almost always have giveaways. So just make sure you're subscribed and you've clicked the notification bell. These giveaways are only available to subscribers to the channel. All the details of what you've got to do are in the pinned comment at the top of the YouTube comments section. In my part 3 video also, which will come out a few days after this video, maybe 1 or 2 days after, in that video I will also have 4 copies of audio modeling Swam Brass apps for iOS to give away. So yeah, make sure you don't miss that video as well. Good luck, everyone. Also, just like to mention, by the way, everyone, if you're appreciating my work and the work of any YouTuber that you like, do please make sure you watch some ads and stuff, because that's basically how we get paid. Even if YouTube ad revenue is terrible, some money from it is better than nothing. There's a lot of work goes into making these videos, especially for something like this series where there are 15 apps, and I've had to really do an incredible amount of work for these. So thank you for all the support that you can give the channel. All right, let's go and listen to some things. So this first example, I'm using Gauss to rhythmize a couple of instances of piccolo trumpet that I pitched down, and then I'm playing Bass Tuba, which is one of the apps that I'm looking at in detail in today's video, more as a kind of lead instrument over the top of these rhythmic parts. So first I'm going to let you hear it, and then I'll very briefly explain how I did it. Okay, so let's look at these. So this one, for example, let me turn off the trigs. Now, Gauss, I did a video on Gauss. It's actually the most viewed video on my channel, and this I think was the #1 selling app of 2020 on the App Store as well. If you haven't watched my video on this, well worth a watch. Great app. So this is what this sounded like. Actually, I played it in very high. So I just played a couple of overdubs of high-pitched piccolo sound, and I played around with the pitch a little bit, and then I pitched it down, And then I used these trigs functions to make it rhythmic. Again, more details of that in my Gauss video. And then in this one, it's got this lovely sort of drummy sound. Well, one thing is, here I'm using this 1989 mode of Gauss to give it this digital degraded sound. So that's making a very big difference. And again, I'm also using the trig function. And here I'm actually pitching the different steps up and down a little bit as well. I love using Gauss for these kind of rhythmic things. Really interesting. Now, over here in this one, I basically used the bass tuba and I recorded a few overdubs into Gauss live. So what you're hearing here is the final overdub. Actually, everything's kind of recorded onto this, but when I made that little jam, I was overdubbing in real time. And so then I just got those all going together. Gauss just fantastic for these things. I also used attack softener here to reduce the attack amount because I wanted something a bit more pad-like there. And I used Bleach Saturator, which I've also done a video on, to give it a bit of a dirtier sound. Okay, let's look at another example. Let's listen to the two different French horns playing together with lots of reverb. I like this very heavily processed bass tuba and tuba going through Clavegrand reamp, Tone Boosters Bit Juggler, which I did a video on, by the way. Check that out in the archives. And Alteza by FAC. Okay, let's have a listen to the E-flat tuba. Listen to what a couple of these together can sound like. Doing something more ambient and soundscapey, so I'm adding Fab Filter reverb and Yukawa delay. I've done a few videos on this great app, check it out. Bass tuba. If you want something different as a bass, you could do a lot worse than go for something like this. Especially played low, it's got a beautiful sub-bass quality, and I could really imagine something like this that I'm about to play now on a cool hip-hop track. So let's compare the sounds of these in different ranges, and this will help you to decide which ones you prefer and whether you think the differences between different ones are big enough that you feel the need to have both, or whether you think that one might suit your needs. For example, do you need both the bass tuba and the E flat tuba, or would one of them do you? Which one would you prefer? And so on and so on. Let me just mention, by the way, it seems in the default presets, the French horns have their mutes on. I showed these mutes, by the way, in the last video, and I mentioned you can move them with your hand. So let me just change that a second. Right. So I just want to mention they've already got their mutes on in the default. Okay, so let's first listen to what bass tuba can sound like. Let me play it a little bit softer. Now we're getting very low here. That's the lowest note. So let me bring it up a little bit. Let's compare that with the regular tuba. So the bass tuba is a bit bassier, but we need to go up a little bit more before we start to hear more clearly how the bass tuba has more presence in the low range. We'll notice that actually when we go up an octave or so. Let's just compare bass tuba, tuba, euphonium. So the euphonium is definitely thinner there than both of those. It's also important to hear what they're like when you play them quietly. That's loud. Definitely hear a difference between the bass tuba and the euphonium there. Okay, French horn. French horn doesn't play at this octave. Okay, so let's go up an octave. And let's listen to French horn F. French horn B flat. Euphonium. Totally different. Let me let you hear the French horn without the mute. Still totally different. Tuba. Can hear difference in the timbre of the tuba and the euphonium at this range. Definitely. I'm going to play this quite hard. The bass tuba is definitely bassier. There's a noticeable difference in the timbre at this range. Like I say, it's really important to check them out at different ranges. Let's go up. That's the bass tuba. Also noticeably different here. Euphonium. It can be quite hard in some ranges to hear the difference between the tuba and the euphonium. I'm Let's go up. You can hear a difference in the timbre of the two French horns. Euphonium, totally different from the French horns. This can't go up as high as the euphonium. Tuba. Euphonium. Bass tuba can't go up as high as the tuba, obviously, but there's only a few semitones difference. At the very high pitches, the tuba sounds better than the bass. The bass is a little bit dirtier and not as clean sounding. Which you might like. There's not a huge amount of difference in them up here. So if I was to get one between the bass and the tuba, I personally would probably go for the bass tuba. Is the euphonium different enough from the tuba for you to want to get both? Only you can decide. Which of the French horns do you prefer? Only you can decide. They are definitely different. Let's listen to some mutes. This one doesn't move. Okay, let's just put it back to, I think this one was the default maybe? This one? Yeah. Hear the euphonium with some mutes. I think I'm playing I'm playing three things at the same time. So the mutes can make a lot of difference. And obviously those differences will be noticeable more at different ranges, but I don't want to make this video too long. I think it's clear enough at this point. All of the audio modeling stuff, it is just extremely lifelike. Here, same mute, but different timbre there, definitely. Okay, now I want to look at how to use a virtual MPE controller on your iPad or your iPhone, like Geoshred, okay, to control the Swam apps. So you can play the Swam apps from Geoshred. So Let's look how to do this. So first thing, I'll switch to a Swam app, and first thing you're going to do here is click on MIDI, click on presets, and you're going to go scroll down this list and choose Seaboard Default. Okay, you need to do this. Then click this X. And another thing then you're going to do is go into Settings and click on MIDI, and then click on Options. And here you're going to want to make sure that Enable Virtual MIDI Ports is selected. If it's not selected, when you select it, the app will say, okay, you need to restart the app for this to be effective. So then you're just going to quit your app and start and open it again, and then it will be in there. It'll look exactly like this. I'm not going to do that because I've done it already. So then another thing is you're going to want to check then, is it getting MIDI from Geoshred? And it is. You can see here Geoshred is in this list. You can turn other things off if you want to. Okay. So we'll look at this one later. Let's look at that later. Okay, let me see. Is there anything else I want to check here? That should be fine. Okay, right. So let's go to Geoshred now. So in Geoshred, we need to use the right preset. We're going to use a MIDI out preset. I'm making this video before the new update of Geoshred comes out, so the way I'm going to do this is slightly different from the way that you will do it. When this video comes out, there will already be an update to Geoshred that will have this preset in it. So let me show you what it's going to be like when you do this. What you're going to do is you're going to click on all presets, and then you scroll down this list and come to MIDI out. Okay, and you can see here at the top it will change to MIDI out. Then here you're going to click on this little menu down here, and you're going to scroll down to the bottom, and I think it's going to be number 21. It's going to be called something like MIDI iOS Swam, something like that. Let's see what it's going to be called. Hang on. I'm just going to access it the way I need to access it, which is a bit different from the way you will do it. So it's going to be called MIDI out iOS Swam, right? So you select that, and if you don't have sound, there's a few things you've got to check. So one thing is, remember that the Swam instruments are not like your typical synth. A synth has complete and utter octave range, can go as low as possible, as high as possible. These mirror the real instruments. They have the range that the real instruments have. So for example, if you've got this set on octave 5 and you're playing up here on the high keys, you may not get any sound. Right? So that's the first thing to check if you're not getting sound. Second thing you need to check, you click these three little dots here, this hamburger menu, and then you click MIDI, and then this should be set on MPE channel mode. That will be saved in the preset anyway, so it should be like that if you're loading this preset. You click on this little MIDI thing and make sure that MIDI out is turned on. If that's not turned on, you're not going to have any sound. By the way, notice here that it's sending out to Swam. Okay. So that's fine. So we close that. Now, let me turn the octaves down a little bit. Okay, so in Geoshred, there are two different ways that we can play the Swam instruments. With finger expression off, and then we're using the expression pad over here, this XY pad, or with finger expression on. If finger expression is on, when I touch one of the keys, when I touch near the bottom, then it's going to have a very low level of expression. And as I play up higher, it's going to have a higher level of expression. So we can play, if you want to play quietly, you just touch the keys near the bottom. If you want to play with a very hard attack, you're going to play up higher on the keys, and of course you can do these kind of swell type things. So you're getting your tremolo there, right? But if we turn finger expression off, now it's going to behave differently. Now to get that expression, what we're going to do, it's not going to matter where we press on the key. What's going to matter is what I'm doing on the XY pad here. So if we look at the way the XY pad is set up in this preset, expression is mapped to the Y axis and flutter tongue is mapped to the X axis. So let's listen to just flutter tongue with low level of expression. Okay, let's listen to high level of expression with no flutter tongue. And then up here we're going to have high expression and high level of flutter tongue. Okay, so this personally, because this is a monophonic instrument, this is the way that I prefer to do it. I think you get more accuracy playing it using the XY pad. So you just play with your right fingers and move the expression pad with your left hand. Now, another thing that you might want to know is how to add more sliders here. Actually, Geoshred have done some videos on these kind of things, but let me just show you quickly. So if we click on the hamburger menu, we go down to control surface, and let's say I want to add a slider for growl in the Swam app. So let me just show you again there what I did. So click on the plus, then I click on performance, and then I scroll down here. You see what I'm saying? This is a bloody deep app, seriously. Bloody deep. Then I go to MIDI out, and I'm going to choose a slider. So this is going to create a slider which sends MIDI out. Now what I need to do is I need to click on this MIDI button. And here, I don't need to receive MIDI, so I'm just going to turn that off. But I do want to send MIDI. And at the moment it's set up to send it on CC23. I'm just going to change this to foot controller 4. Okay, but you can use whatever's suitable for you. It doesn't really matter. Okay, then I go back and I'm going to give it the name growl. And then I'm going to close it. So now we can see we have a slider here called growl. Now I press close here again. But you see now if I do things here, it's not going to do anything because I also need to set the Swam app up so that this slider is controlling growl. So how do we do that? I click here on MIDI, and then we see these purple things are the things which are already assigned. Green things are not yet assigned. So we can see, for example, growl is not assigned. I click on growl, and okay, channel any. I mean, you could change this to 1 if you wanted, but let's just leave it on any. Message CC, yes. We want to receive CC messages. And here, where it says value MSB, here we will put in 4, right? Or whatever is the value that you assigned in Geoshred. Now, this just closes automatically after a certain time. But if I click on this again, you can see now this is purple, and that means that it is assigned. So let's go back to Geoshred, and let me just press here. Let me bring the expression down a little bit. And do you hear that growl now? So now I have a slider for growl, and I don't want to make this too long, but if you want that growl to be actually assigned to the y-axis on the keys, what you would do is you'd click on the 3 dots, you click on control surface, and you would do the same kind of things that I did just now, but you would do it here on this poly expression thing. So you would go in and you would set up the MIDI in the same way that we just talked about. I'm not going to show you how to do that. And if you have more problems with this, you can look. Geoshred have got various videos on things like assigning X, Y, Z control, so you can go and check out the videos they have done on those. In Geoshred, there are links in the manual to these videos, by the way. Okay, so Geoshred is really a very, very good controller for these things. But also don't forget that Geoshred has let me just do it in the standalone. Okay, so remember that Geoshred did a collaboration with Audio Modeling a while ago, and you have violins. Geoshred has the Swam violins in it. It has cellos, it has saxes, flutes, clarinets, and oboes. So these are also something that if you like these kind of sounds, you may look into. Of course, Audio Modeling will at some point bring out their own apps for these, right? Because soon they will bring out strings and woodwinds. But these are cheaper to buy in Geoshred than they will be in the standalone Swam apps. But in Geoshred, you have a little bit less control. So there are pros and cons really to whichever one you buy it in. I did a video. I did actually 2 videos on GeoSwam sounds when Geoshred brought out these in-app purchases for these. So you can go and check those in my archives if you haven't watched them yet. So I hope you found this helpful, everyone. It's not very interesting to just, for some people anyway, some people like that kind of thing, some don't, to just compare the apps very methodically like that. But I think when you're buying purchases of this expense, you really want to hear clearly the differences between them and see what you're getting. If you did find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, etc., etc. if you haven't yet. If you're really feeling generous, you know, my PayPal's there. You can find that in my channel info section. I've also got a link to my PayPal in the comments section. I do really appreciate it when people send me donations. So thanks a lot to everyone who has. There are a few people who have sent me multiple donations. Some of them have been pretty generous. I really, really appreciate and respect those people for recognizing my work and the amount of work involved in this. So I'll see you again very soon when I do the 3rd video in this series. So first video, we did the trumpets. Today's video, the tubas and horns. 3rd video will be on the trombones. Also in the 3rd video, I'll maybe talk a little bit about differences between this iOS version and the desktop version, and maybe discuss a little bit which one is going to be better for you to buy. Is it going to work out better for you to buy the desktop apps or to buy this? Maybe I'll also, in the next video, look at the differences between using the Swam sounds in Geoshred and using them in this. I can't promise anything. This series is already becoming extremely time-consuming, so let's see. But anyway, you'll have an idea of that yourself if you go and watch the video that I did on the Swam sounds in Geoshred. If you watch that and you watch these videos, you'll know for yourself clearly the pros and cons of the 2 different offerings. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day or evening or whatever it is in whatever time zone you're in, and stay safe, everybody. Be good. Take it easy.